25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks, so he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great T.J. Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome in a very happy Friday to you now, January the 24th, as we get ready for championship weekend here. AFC Conference Championship, NFC Conference Championship. Who will punch their tickets to New Orleans? That'll be the site of this year's Super Bowl, where we will crown a champion. Bills taking on the Chiefs. We got the Commanders taking on the Eagles. We've got injury news. We've got updated line movement. We're going to talk about all of that over the next couple of hours. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by here tonight, as we've got some limited action on the hardwood as we get ready for a huge weekend, certainly in college basketball, as conference play is underway in a big way. It's a big night for the Big Ten. With 2 Friday games in the spotlight. We're going to have Michigan taking on Purdue. And then, of course, we're going to have Penn State taking on Iowa. And I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that UCLA and Washington are Big Ten teams. But yet here we are. They, too, will have the late slate here tonight in some Big Ten action. It's just absolutely crazy to think that UCLA and Washington are in the same breath as Big Ten basketball, but that's it. We also have a total of 13 games on the board. We're going to have a lot of the MAC conference, the Atlantic 10, the NEC also represented here tonight. So not the biggest slate of games, but certainly some marquee matchups that we're going to be talking about here as we progress this hour. Only 3 games in the NBA here tonight, and one of those games is going to feature the Sixers taking on the Joel Embiid-less Philadelphia Sixers, taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are still dealing with some injuries of their own, as their big man, Evan Mobley, still not available to them. They will, of course, roll out Jarrett Allen, who has done a pretty decent job in his absence. And listen, what is Philadelphia without Joel Embiid? The answer is good luck trying to figure it out, because the market has them as a double-digit underdog at home here tonight against this Cleveland Cavaliers team, who if we're being honest, completely threw away that game a couple of nights ago in Houston against the Rockets, who, in fact, they are scheduled to play again this weekend, only in their building, maybe exact a little revenge. But if you can't make your free throws, you're not going to win. And that's exactly what happened to the Cavaliers there against the Houston Rockets. I am not buying that this is some sort of look-ahead spot, given the fact that, listen, the Houston Rockets, different conference, different everything. If they see each other in the playoffs, we'll work on our free throw shooting. But I don't think this is a game against the Sixers in which they are going to want to lose. I don't think this is a game in which they are in any jeopardy of losing. I think they will handle their business. They will get home and they will exact a little bit of revenge there from giving the Houston Rockets that game a couple of nights ago. But that's going to be, of course, one of the featured games here tonight in the association. Again, we said there's only 3 games listed here, so not a whole lot to be excited about in the NBA. Of course, we'll have much more when it comes to the association over the weekend. But we also have a few other games. New Orleans taking on Memphis, which will be interesting. That total has been bet up to right around 244 and a half here as New Orleans finally dug out of the snow. Boy, they didn't see that coming a couple of nights ago there in New Orleans. They'll travel to Memphis, take on the Grizzlies, who are, of course, laying double digits against a New Orleans team that have been playing actually some pretty decent basketball as of late here, as they have finally gotten some pieces back together and are finally healthy with Zion, who, of course, is probably going to figure out a way not to play tonight. Also, Portland taking on Charlotte. Portland also being very competitive as of late. They're getting 5.5 total in that game, somewhere around the 222 and a half mark, actually down to 217 now, as we continue to see the money come in on the under. So those are your 3 big games there coming up. We mentioned only 13 games and the Big Ten in full effect here tonight with some primetime action, certainly with Michigan trying to get back on track after a couple of big losses. They're going to try to get it done in the Mackey Arena, one of the hardest places to play on the road in college basketball. They're going to try and do the unthinkable. They're going to try to handle business there against the Boilermakers. Should be a good one. Should also be maybe one of the more higher scoring games of the night here. I think it's going to be very hard with these two teams to stop one another offensively. I think points are coming in that game. We've got some NHL we'll talk about a little bit later. Again, not the biggest of slate here tonight on the ice, but we do have a couple of games we'll get to. Top of next hour, our friend George Kurtz will stop by. We also have Smiley Kaufman coming by here in just a few minutes. Give us an update on the Farmers out in Torrey Pines on the West Coast. A very, unique moving day. But it's Friday, Joe. Yes, I know. Moving day is usually Saturday. The problem is they've been playing since Wednesday, as they have given the green light to the NFL to have Sunday all to their own. There won't be any distractions on the golf course come Sunday with the NFL playing their conference championships. And that's not a new thing. They've been doing that for about the last 3 or 4 years. But it means that on a Friday, we've got guys making moves up and down the leaderboard. Smiley Kaufman there will give us an update as far as what is happening out there at Torrey Pines. A couple of other big headlines coming out here today in case you missed it. The Raiders have gone total weekend at Bernie's for their coach. Apparently, they are wheeling in 73-year-old Pete Carroll to take over. That's right. Pete Carroll, 73. I think he turned 74 by the time the season starts. Yay. Just what the Raiders needed was a 4-year-old head coach to take over a team that has no quarterback. Maybe Brock Bowers can just throw himself the ball. Maybe that's what Pete Carroll is going to bring to the table here. But the good news for Pete is that he brings plenty of experience, and I believe he's probably the one living coach that actually beat Tom Brady. I don't know. But Brady, of course, associated with the Raiders in some very strange way, but also having a say with what happens with that organization. The good news for Pete is that the Raiders have more cap money and space than just about anybody. Why is that? Well, because they have no players. So that usually means you've got a lot of money to be able to spend. Pete Carroll will be able to mold this team into his vision. And, of course, he will have plenty of opportunities to bring in a coaching staff of guys that are more than capable, especially from an experience standpoint, of putting together a much better product on the field, hopefully, for the fans of Las Vegas than what we saw this year. The bottom line is they still need a quarterback, and are they going to get one in this year's draft? But kudos to Pete Carroll for taking over the head coaching job there of the Las Vegas Raiders. We got more NFL news and notes coming up. Of course, Jacksonville continuing to do the unthinkable. We'll talk all about it, though, as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on this Friday now, January the 24th. As we said, limited slate on the hardwood here tonight as we all gear up for a monster championship weekend in the NFL. And because the NFL takes center stage on Sunday, we have a little twist on the PGA Tour. We have a moving day on Friday, and who better to talk about the PGA and the Farmers Insurance opening happening right now at Torrey Pines than our good friend Smiley Kaufman in the house. And it's so funny. I'm talking about moving day on Friday, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. this tournament ends tomorrow here, Smiley, but they've done
That's
that
right.
for the last couple of years with the NFL, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, with all the AFC and the NFC championship games, they try to avoid, the crazy football day on Sunday where everybody's going to be watching football. So golf's smart enough to not want to try to compete with the numbers that the NFL gets on a Sunday. So it's very weird. I'm having to recalibrate my brain that today is moving day on Friday. Normally we have cuts on Friday, but if you haven't tuned in this week, yesterday they had to call players off the course because of severe windy conditions. They're able to actually finish the round, get a cut, but still yesterday it showed how firm and fast the golf course is, and all the players that made the cut are on the South course today. And I'm not sure if you saw the recent news as well, Joe, that the Riviera event's moving to Torrey Pines. So all the best players in the world are going to be on this course here very soon playing in Tiger's event.
It's an unfortunate situation in California across the board, but Torrey Pines certainly will make a great host for the event. But we got to get a winner here, and I'm looking at these names. I mean, Andrew Novak has played phenomenal, very steady here the first couple of days. Of course, Aberg was the big name. 63 he opened up with, I believe, on the north side there, and then now 75 yesterday, saying he's got an illness, but he's very much still alive to win this, is he not?
Oh, definitely so. I mean, he's the most talented player at the top of the leaderboard. He's the one you'd expect. He shot 9 under on the north course, which is the course that you want to go take it low on. Shot a couple over par yesterday on the south. Today, he just looks very tired and lethargic, sitting on his bag between just about every shot. But he's actually been playing well over, he got off to a really rough start, but it's been playing nice. It's on the coverage right now, so it's weird that, the West Coast in the prime time, we still don't know exactly what this leaderboard and how it's going to shake out. As I look at it right now, there's 33 guys within 5 shots of the lead. Currently 7 under pars leading. You kind of expect to see maybe if you get to double digits, that's going to be a good spot to be. If you get to 12, it feels like that'll be enough to win. 11 seems like it could be enough. 10 might be a playoff. You never really know, but 5 under is the lowest round on the course today. That's Novak. Seeing a couple other 4 unders. So it just shows you how dry and firm this golf course is and how difficult it plays.
Yeah, is it supposed to change tomorrow at all? Are we looking at pretty much similar conditions? And what usually wins this, Smiley? How much on the par?
You show up to this golf course in this tournament knowing you have to play 2 golf courses, so you try to go low on the north. Mm-hmm. That's where you try to, you try to go and shoot a 9 under like Ludwig does, and the rest of the time you just go try to shoot 2 under every day at South course. And if you're able to do that, for the most part, you work your way up to like the low teens, which is a good spot to be. If you get to 16 under at this event, you typically win, but low teens is always going to be a good spot to be. And it'll be interesting to see how these guys finish up the round today. But with how firm this golf course is, I could see something even in at 9, 10 under end up winning.
We did have, of course, the PGA Tour fans. We got some good news for Pebble Beach next week, right? Scotty Scheffler, we'll finally get to see him again. I believe Jordan Spieth also making his season debut in the signature event. It'll be good to see both of those guys back in action. But how do you handicap this early in the year with some of these guys?
Well, last year it was interesting. Scotty Scheffler really only got it going once he got past the West Coast swing. So I think, with Jordan coming off of a surgery on his wrist, Scotty coming off of a Christmas Day accident cooking, which still blows my mind. I think he's got enough money to have a chef to do everything for him at this point. But got to love the man that he's the dad, and also he's still going to cook. So you can't hate him for that. But, at the early part of the season, it's interesting. I mean, you'd like to see the stars rise to the top. I think the game needs it. Pebble Beach is going to be a big week. It'd be nice to see Ludwig win this week at Torrey just to kind of get people excited about the PGA Tour golf season. But as we head into next week, Wyndham Clark's the defending champion. He's a player that's kind of gotten off to a pretty decent start this year. So, but hard to look past Scotty. But Poana, to me, and Scotty hasn't really matched up. So we'll see how he does.
Yeah, it's interesting too, right? Two-time, we got Colin Morikawa also said to beat Matsuyama. I'm hoping there's going to come a time where I have money on Colin Morikawa on Sunday and he wins, Smiley. I mean, it's coming, right? Please tell me it's coming this year.
Yeah, it is. He had too good of a year last year. Reminds me a lot of Xander Schauffele in the prior year to him breaking out and winning 2 major championships. So if there's a guy that can take that next step, where is there a player that can go out and win 2 major championships that hasn't won in a bit? I think Colin Morikawa is that guy. He's too good of an iron player, and his putting is something that nobody really talks about, but it's been a huge improvement since he's made the change over to Stephen Sweeney. It's huge improvement in just how he's approached it. The stroke's really solid, and I'm with you. I am buying all the stock on Colin Morikawa this year.
I'm with you. Any word on Xander? Of course, had to withdraw here. How is he feeling? How long before we see him again?
Well, it's interesting. It seems like he's got a bit of a rib issue, and if anybody's ever dealt with any type of rib issue, you know how difficult those can be. You know, when you get out of bed, it can be very difficult, to engage your core. So you're constantly just feel like you're stuck in some spots, and maybe it's just the travel that he had to do going from Hawaii all the way to the TGL, which in the break you and I were talking about that you intended. It's interesting. These guys are taking on more of a bit of a travel schedule to go fly from West Coast to the East Coast, and all of this trying to get themselves ready for the first major of the year at the Masters, which is going to be fun.
Coming up, Smiley Kaufman, PGA Tour is back, my man. Appreciate the time as always. Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. We got a little something for everybody this weekend, some NBA with some NHL, and of course, the NFL Championship weekend. Time to take a look And what our good friends Tom Vecchio and Joe Madden have to say about our pick'em with the Sports Millions, which, of course, you can turn your predictions into real cash. So, Tom and Joe, what do you got for us this week?
A happy Friday. It's time to jump into some Sports Millions pick'ems. Now, Tom, we're one day closer to Sunday in those divisional games. I know both of us are excited, looking forward to these matchups. And you will kick us off here. Tell us what you've got between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, huge game to get the weekend started. When it comes to the Commanders overall, I expect them to be playing from behind. I also don't expect them to be able to run the ball at a really effective rate. So that leads me to Jaden Daniels, over 21.5 completions. Now, he's been over this number in 8 straight games, not including the last game of the regular season versus the Cowboys, where he didn't play the full game. I'm expecting the Commanders, again, to be playing from behind. And this is what we've seen from the Commanders offense the entire season under Cliff Kingsbury, moving the ball effectively out of Daniels' hands, picking up completions at a high rate, picking up first downs, sustaining drives. So that's where I'm going to turn to. We could talk about the receivers, we talk about the running backs, but I don't think we'll have a whole lot of success. But it all starts with Jaden Daniels moving the ball. And again, if they're playing from behind, the yards and the attempts should be there. I specifically like the completions for Jaden Daniels this weekend.
And Jaden Daniels has been absolutely outstanding this season. Hard to believe that he's a rookie quarterback in the league and how far he's been able to take this team. So I love where you're going with that. I'm going to turn here to the matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I went back and forth with this one, Tom. I was looking at Patrick Mahomes for higher than his passing yards out there because he's been absolutely outstanding in the playoffs. Nicely able to go over the number of 254.5 that we're getting today on average over his 19. But when I looked, I really wanted to isolate James Cook, the running back here for the Buffalo Bills. I'm looking at his higher than 54.5 rushing yards to come into play in this game. I really do think the Buffalo Bills, as long as they don't get down to start this game, are going to try to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. We know that run defense can be eaten by these teams on the ground. And I do think James Cook is the running back to be able to do so. We look at him in his last matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 11, it wasn't good out there. He was only able to put up 20 rushing yards, but we have seen him come more into play here for the Buffalo Bills. We look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and last week, the Houston Texans, we saw Joe Mixon be able to put up 88 rushing yards on them. And I do think here, James Cook is a stronger running back. So give me James Cook higher than 54.5 rushing yards.
Two absolutely awesome games to start the close of the NFL season. Super Bowl a couple weeks away. It's going to be awesome.
You guys, best of luck on Sunday's games. We'll be back on Monday for more Sports Millions Pick'ems.
All right, Joe and Tom, we appreciate it, but don't forget, in addition to Pick'em, we've got our Sports Millions Blitz'em as well.
Enjoy Sport Millions Pick'ems, but hey, making picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over to Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em.
All right, appreciate it as always, as we're just getting started here on Game Time Decisions. Getting ready, of course, top of the hour. Plenty of action on the hardwood in college hoops and some big matchups here tonight that we are certainly looking forward to. It's a big night for the Big Ten, as we are going to get, I think, a pretty good litmus test for this Michigan team as they're on the road at the Mackey Arena getting ready to take on the Purdue Boilermakers. And, of course, Iowa, not just a horrific bad loss at home a couple of nights ago. They're going to try to right this ship against Penn State, who might be without one of their leading scorers here tonight. So they have some issues. Can Penn State go on the road to Iowa and get it done? Can Michigan get it done against Purdue? We'll have all of those questions answered for you here when Game Time Decisions continues, and we've got plenty more to get to on the grid. Looking very forward here to tonight on the hardwood.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions on this Friday. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we are getting ready for some action on the hardwood, both in college basketball, 13 games on the slate, a big feature night for the Big Ten. And yes, that includes UCLA and Washington, which still to me is the craziest thing in the world when I say it, and it is. But Michigan taking on Purdue, Penn State taking on Iowa. Let's not forget, pretty sneaky one also that's going to be interesting in the Big East with Marquette taking on Villanova. And here to try to make heads or tails of this slate here tonight, our good friend Mark Zinno. And Zin, let's start with that Villanova game here. It's been close to, 9.5 all day long. Yes, Marquette is worthy of laying that. Doesn't mean they're going to cover it. Does Nova have a chance of, not only covering, but could they win this game outright?
Yeah, well, listen, when you are the 4th best three-point shooting team in the country, you have a chance to win every game. That's kind of what Villanova's, thing is. They're number 1 in the Big East in three-point shooting and 4th in the country, making over 40% of their threes. Now, Marquette's very good at defending the three. They're 44th in the nation in three-point field goal percentage defense. So this is kind of where this game is going to be won and lost. But you're getting a better shooting team at Villanova, better from the free throw line, markedly better. They're 8th in the country in free throw shooting compared to 126 for Marquette. And you just have to rely on the fact that, Villanova, as long as they shoot and they're making shots at a decent pace here, they're going to be okay. Look, they've only shot less than 40% from the field twice this entire year. If they can be above that number, they're going to be okay. They also play incredibly slow, 349th in the country in tempo, which, again, I think will keep the scoring down. I think the under comes in here. Marquette has won and covered 7 straight in this series, okay? What are they going to cover 8 straight? Maybe they could, but I'd like to bet against that. Not only that, Marquette now for the 6th straight game is laying 9.5 or more. They are 1-4 against the number in previous 5. The only 2 big wins they have are over Seton Hall and Providence, and both of those are on the road, strangely enough. So I just think it's too many points, There's a part of me that wanted to cut this game in half, Joe, and just take Villanova in the first half plus 5.5. But I just felt like it's one of those things where Villanova actually is a team that if they are down by 6 or 7.5, you know what they can do? Shoot their way back into it late, right? Because they are such a good shooting team. So I didn't want to welcome in the variance of maybe the 3 or 4 minute scoring drought early that puts Marquette up by double digits and they end up closing the half by 7, and you're on the wrong side, but yet Villanova stays within the 9.5 of the game. So I think Villanova's the right side here.
We have an interesting one, I think. Mackey Arena, one of the hardest places to play in college hoops. It has been, even without Zach Edey in the building here. Purdue welcoming in Michigan, who's, had some ups and downs here, but they got a couple of big men in Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden that can pick you apart. And I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of defense in this game. There's certainly going to be some turnovers and some threes. It just feels like an over. Zen, I mean, should we overthink this?
No, I feel like the number, leads to an over. You talked about Michigan. 17th out of 18 teams in the Big Ten in turnover percentage. I mean, that's bad. It's hard to hold on to. But conversely, when they do hold on to the ball, the shots go in because they're third in effective field goal percentage, second in 2-point shooting, fourth in 3-point shooting. So when they actually can hold on to the ball, it usually goes in the bucket. So, you're talking about two teams that play with a decent amount of pace here. It's not like these two teams play incredibly. So Michigan's 54th in the country, in tempo, so they can get up and down and run. But Purdue on their home floor, they score more there, and I think you're right. I think this leads to an over. I would, if you put a gun to my head, pick the side. I'll take Purdue here, but nonetheless, I think this is an over game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the over is definitely the way to look. And Iowa, that loss last time at home it was laughable. Absolutely laughable. I don't trust Penn State to go on the road and have enough offense to beat them, but anything is possible, I guess, here with Iowa now.
Yeah, I mean, look at the total for this game at 168, right? Like, it's just screaming off the board that both of these teams are getting 85, kind of just the way they play, because Iowa just scores so much at home, and these are two of the fastest-paced teams in the country when you're talking about Iowa and Penn State. Both these teams are top 30 in tempo. I honestly, I don't think there's a way you could bet the under. It'd be one hell of a sweat. Good luck doing it. Knock yourself out. But you're also talking about two teams that are at the top of the conference in offensive efficiency during conference play. So I would actually take the over. I'm pretty confident both of these teams are getting 80. And if they do, it might be a little bit of a sweat here, but there's also a good chance of overtime because I think this one's going to stay close.
Yeah, 3 of 21 is what Iowa was against Minnesota in that game. If that was from 3. I don't think they have another one of those kinds of nights. And get ready for some points. That could be the most entertaining game. I'm not going to say that about UCLA and Washington, because if there was an under, and I know UCLA has been all of a sudden playing in these overs, they've picked up the pace with Cronin a little bit. They played much better at home than they did heading east. They're going to stay out west in Washington, who's awful. And I don't trust them to score enough points in this game here either. So do we trust UCLA to win by laying points, or are we just looking at an under in this one as well?
I mean, Washington is a team that, is going to be erratic and hard to figure out, right? Denny Sprinkle is trying to turn this program around here and get them up to speed. They're just, they're not a very good shooting team at all, and that's a problem. Their offensive efficiency is dead last in the Big Ten. They're not very good from 2-point percentage. They're dead last in 3-point percentage. So it's like when you have trouble shooting, you're going to have trouble scoring, and that's really the issue. However, if you're going to bet on Washington, do it at home, because at least they're more comfortable there than they are on the road. I mean, again, this is a team that beat Maryland at home straight up. Some of that was Maryland never having traveled out to Washington and making a cross-country flight from the D.C. area out to Seattle. So I think that's part of it. Obviously, UCLA doesn't have that problem, so it's a little bit different staying in the same time zone. But if you're going to bet on Washington, you have to do it at home. You can't play them on the road.
You have just 3 games in the NBA here tonight, Zen. Philadelphia is getting, 10.5 against the Cavs. No Embiid. I just don't know what the hell to do with Philadelphia. I mean, it's a head scratcher. It really is here.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, situationally, the spot screams Philadelphia, right? You have Cleveland coming off that gut punch loss to Houston. And guess what? They had a night off. They play tonight. They play Houston tomorrow at home in a revenge spot for them. You saw what happened when Cleveland and Oklahoma City played, right? That revenge thing matters to these young teams because they want to win every game possible, right? Teams that haven't proven everything take every game seriously. It's not like this is Steph and LeBron out there going, we'll just dribble out 82 games. We'll see in the postseason when we're going to start turning up. That's not the case here. They're going to want to get back at Houston. I have a hard time believing they need to keep their foot on the gas pedal for all 4 quarters here to beat Philadelphia. But the problem is that, there's nothing redeeming about the Sixers at all. There's no way to, when you look at betting them, it's like, okay, what do they do well? What can I hang with? Are they good on Tuesday nights at home? No. Are they good on, Friday nights at home? No. Are they good getting double digits? No. They're not good at anything. So it's a total, wing and a prayer here to back Philadelphia in this spot. That said, again, I wouldn't play Cleveland. I'd only play Philadelphia plus a 10.5.
What do we do with Memphis and New Orleans? Feels like an over. It's been at 244 all day, but I couldn't sweat out an under here. You?
No, I mean, look, New Orleans is finally healthy, right? This number may be a little bit too inflated for my liking at this point in time. That's the biggest thing you have to. Again, New Orleans has gotten healthy, and they've started to turn things around, right? They've won 4 straight. This is a team that won 4 straight, getting 11 points. I know they're on the road and all, and I know they beat Utah twice in that 4-game stretch, so it's not really big things, but it feels like way too much of a number. Look, Grizzlies have won the first 2 in the series. Maybe a little revenge for the Pelicans here. I like the plus 11.
Well, New Orleans knows how to build snowmen now. There's always that. We'll have more Game Time Decisions next here on the grid.
Second full year under new ownership to really be where they are right now for this Commanders franchise is one of the best stories of this NFL season.
Went to the playoffs and won 2 road games. Now we're going to use that. Hey, rookie quarterback on? No more rookie quarterback. He's already arrived in the NFL as a legitimate quarterback. And can you say, Ben, is he already top 5?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you as we keep rolling on. We've got some NBA action, 3 games, 13 games in the college hoop slate. We got a few in the NHL we'll talk about coming up top of the hour. And, of course, definitely some NFL action, talking about these big championship games coming up this weekend. And who better to talk a little NFL as well as some golf with, and our good friend Brady Cannon in the house stepping in on Game Time Decisions. And Brady, it's interesting. We talked to Smiley Kaufman earlier this hour about what's happening out in Torrey Pines right now. Yesterday's weather was very interesting, to say the least. Aberg, and I believe you were on the show Tuesday or Wednesday this week when we said, yeah, it's all fine and dandy. You shoot 63 on the North course, but let's see what happens on the South course. And while the South course took a lot of guys down yesterday with the wind, but I got a whole lot of guys within one shot here, Brady, heading into what is essentially Sunday on Saturday in the golf, because it started a day early. Who are we looking at and who's still live here?
I tell you what, you spelled it out exactly right there, Joe. It's been a weird week. You and I were talking. I thought it was Thursday when it was Wednesday. My whole body clock is off here with this golf tournament starting a day early. And then I never saw anything remotely, suggesting wind in the forecast. And then all of a sudden it starts blowing gangbusters on Thursday, and they had to stop the tournament because balls were oscillating and moving on the green. Guys are getting ready to line up a putt, and the wind is blowing the ball around on the green. Crazy stuff all of a sudden. And now you look up on Friday, we've got a heck of a golf tournament all of a sudden going on here. Wednesday was fine. Oberg gets out to that 63. Then the wind goes nuts. Now all of a sudden, wow, we've got a serious tournament here. You've got a couple of newbies. Andrew Novak in the lead, shoots a heck of a round, 6 under par today. He's never won on the PGA Tour before. This has been a popular tournament for guys to get that first win in their career. I don't know if he has the stones, with some pretty big names breathing down his neck. Harris English has finished runner-up here before. Harris English has been very good at this track, finished third, by the way, in 2021 at the U.S. Open here when Jon Rahm won the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines. K.H. Lee looking sharp. Matty Schmid, I picked the wrong week to get off Matty Schmid. I was on him last week. Now he's red hot. Lanto Griffin is a guy that has played very well here in the past. You've got Oberg still with 5 holes left to play. He's not out of it. Snedeker, the old man, he's won this tournament twice. Jason Day's won twice, I believe it's twice, at least once. He's lurking. Matsuyama, Luke List, a former champion. So, you've got, gosh, what is it, Joe? 30 guys within 3 or 4 shots? We're going to have a heck of a Saturday finish here.
I think it's going to be a heck of a Saturday finish, and it just feels like, can we get Aberg at anywhere even close to even money or plus money? He is a little bit under the weather. They said he's been battling an illness, but he's hanging in there, and he is absolutely going to be a big part of the discussion tomorrow. But it certainly feels like there could be a number worth betting here with some of these guys that have a chance.
Well, now he's at plus 450. That's what I'm currently showing at FanDuel. He is 3 shots off the lead, but he does have 5 holes left to play. So, a strong finish, now would probably be the buy point. You haven't seen that price since prior to this tournament beginning. But he's been really exceptional off the tee. No surprise. He can really drive the golf ball, but his putting and his approach play has been a little bit off. Harris English is a guy that I was on pre-tournament, so I'm really rooting for him, and his short game has just been flawless. He just hit a 20-foot putt for birdie to tack on another birdie here in his round today. K.H. Lee, this guy has won on tour before. You can find him in the neighborhood of 35-1. Currently 4th in this field for strokes gained off the tee, 2nd on approach, and 13th in putting. Matty Schmid, he's in the neighborhood of 30-1, 14th on approach, 20th in putting, 5th in greens and regulation. And then I mentioned, some of these other guys, Lanto Griffin, 20-25-1. Jason Day in the neighborhood of 60-1. Thomas Dietrich, 50-1. Luke List was as high as 200-1, a former champ here. And the old man Snedeker, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's in the conversation. You can get him at 70-80-1. So there's a lot of options out there, but you know how we do it, Joe. We don't like to see a guy that is relying only on a hot putter. You want to see a well-balanced statistical sheet there heading into the final day.
Yeah, and there could very well, Brady, be some opportunities here tomorrow. Let's see how it plays out tonight at the Farmers. And then, of course, they're playing because we have NFL coming up on Sunday. Of the two games, which one are you most confident in?
Well, I may have mentioned this with you earlier. I kind of used a horse racing term. I wanted to key the Bills. I loved getting the Bills to the other side of 7, even the other side of 8. And you can do this by parlaying alternate lines, or you can just use simply a teaser. I went the teaser route, and I teased the Bills up to plus 8.5. I really like that position. And you can even go the other way with the Chiefs if you want. I think this is a field goal game. I do not believe one team is going to win this game by probably more than 4 points. I think either way, it's going to fall in that window. So I love that position. And then rather than going Philadelphia down to roughly a pick 'em, I went the other way with Washington to plus 12.5 because I think this game will be tightly contested as well. Philadelphia, what we've seen out of them as of late, Joe, is they just allow teams to hang around. I mean, they were not able to step on the neck of the Los Angeles Rams when they had them down by 2 scores. It looked like the game was over. And here's Matthew Stafford at the end, with a chance to pull off the upset. So I think that game's going to be tight as well, a division matchup.
I think it's going to be a heck of a weekend here. And let's just hope that eventually, when we get to it in a couple of weeks there in New Orleans, that we're going to get a pretty darn good game, and I think we will here. But, Brady, should be a whole lot of fun along the way, my man. We always appreciate you stopping by. Game Time Decisions returns after this.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions as we close out this first hour together. Still much to get to, including some NHL action here and plenty of NFL coaching news that we're going to talk about. But I wanted to bring back our good friend Brady Cannon because we were just talking off air about some And it's been a hot topic of conversation all week, Brady, with the ref crews assigned to each game here. And, there's this going narrative of the NFL wants Mahomes and Andy Reid. And if you look back in their history in the playoffs, they've always had fewer penalties than the teams that they played, yada, yada, yada. Except that doesn't work with the crew coming in on Sunday against Buffalo, does it?
Yeah, it's very interesting, Joe. And, we saw that game against the Houston Texans last week. We've seen the Chiefs all season long get extremely lucky. And there's been that storyline of, and you see all the memes on social media with Mahomes kissing the referees and all that funny stuff. But, it seemed like enough is enough in that game against the Texans. It's like, okay, guys, this is no longer a storyline. It's real. It's factual. Look at the proof is in the pudding there.
Yep.
And it seems like the NFL has finally said, okay, we get it. And if you believe in the conspiracy theory, the script type of thing, maybe you can buy into this because you're right. Clete Blakeman his crew has been assigned this Chiefs game, who is not, the typical crew that ushers in the home cooking and what have you for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs have a losing record with Blakeman's crew dating back to 2018. And actually, the home team, when Clete Blakeman, when his crew referees games, the last 16 affairs, the home team is just 5-11 against the number. So as far as a referee crew standpoint, I don't know if the NFL's trying to flip the script, go in a different direction with the narrative, what have you. But right now, it's anti-Chiefs in that regard.
Yeah, well, listen, I have a pretty strong suspicion here that if Kansas City wins the game against Buffalo, it will likely have nothing to do with Clete Blakeman. I'm fairly certain it will, or if Buffalo wins that game, I'm also fairly certain it'll have nothing to do with Clete Blakeman. So games
it's that time of the year, Joe,
trenches.
It's that time of the year when we don't have 16 games and we're just reaching, we're grabbing for straws to try and find another angle. I like Buffalo. We said it last segment. I think they win the game outright.
It's trending, but it's actually, I've never seen so many people on social media talking about who the ref is. Like, who cares? It doesn't make a difference who the ref is. Players have to play. Somebody has got to make a play at the right time in spite of the ref. So, I don't buy that narrative. I never have. Listen, we had to deal with Brady for close to 2 decades, who got every call known to Tuck rule. Listen, the NFL went out of its way. The NFL went out of its way to actually change the rules after that game. So, but prior to that, guess what? The Raiders had every opportunity to win that game, and you know what? They didn't. So it comes down to players making plays. I don't spend a lot of time looking at the refs at this level, maybe in college football a little bit, Brady, but at this point here, listen, somebody's going to make a play at the right time, the right moment. They're going to win the game, especially between those two people.
Well, the one thing about it, it does give me a feeling of comfort that it feels like we will get a fair shake because you've got a guy here that apparently his record shows he is not, a Chiefs homer, and not that anybody is, but it just feels like we have a very objective, neutral party here going in.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, because I can promise you on Monday, social media will be ablaze if Clete Blakeman has 30 penalties in a row against the Buffalo Bills or Kansas City Chiefs. I can assure you of that. But the good news is if Buffalo wins and Clete Blakeman has been very favorable to him throwing the flags, I guarantee you the Bills Mafia will donate a whole lot of money to whatever his favorite charity is, because they do that very well, Brady, these days. They do it in a great, great fashion. It's a fun fan base. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, it's going to be an all-out war. And I think, quite honestly, I'm more intrigued with what we get from Philadelphia and Washington than anything else. Could we be looking at the greatest rookie season in the history of the sport, Brady? And that's saying something.
I hope we are.
That's
I hope we
crazy.
are. I love the kid. Oh. He's electric. I love the Detroit Lions. It was a shame that they had to meet up because I really like both of those teams. Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts' status is interesting. Could play a big part in that game.
Another hour, Game Time Decisions next here on the grid.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome in. Game Time Decisions, often running hour number 2 together here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we've got a big weekend coming up across the board, especially on Sunday when the NFL takes center stage. Conference championship time here. Who will represent the AFC? Who will represent the NFC here? Bills, Chiefs. Commanders taking on the Eagles. A lot to break down. We'll do that coming up over the next hour. But let's not forget, we got plenty of other sports happening right now. Tonight, even. Light slate in the NBA, only 3 games. We've got 13 games scheduled with a big focus on the Big Ten in college hoops. And we got 4 games set up on the ice. And here to talk a little hockey is our good friend George Kurtz here stepping in. Not the biggest of cards here, but some intriguing matchups here tonight for sure, including, well, I think everyone's eyes are going to go to George. Vegas taking on Dallas there. Hill against Ottinger. Does appear to be the game of the night. I'm kind of shocked we're still looking at 6s right now for a total. What are we going to get in this one, do you think?
Well, Vegas played last night, right? So the Golden Knights played last night. Generally, that means we have a lean towards the other team. Dallas did not play last night. Now, Dallas is a banged-up team. They did get Rupe Hintz back. He missed about 3-4 games due to an injury. They got him back last game. Seguin is still out. So they're a little banged up the middle here. That being said, it's still hard not to go Dallas's way here. Aiden Hill has played solid this season, but not great. So I don't know if he can win this game by himself. Ottinger has been. Listen, we're all going to talk about Hellebuck, and Thompson's been great for Washington, but Ottinger's been a top 5 goaltender this season here. I'm with the Dallas Stars here. I might feel differently if one or two things, if this game was in Vegas, or if the Vegas Golden Knights didn't play last night, but that's not the case here. Give me the Stars.
You're liking the Stars here tonight to get it done. How about Philly and your Islanders? Sorokin in goal there. This one, too. Islanders, what, $1.50, $1.55 is a fair? Are you trusting the Islanders at home here to get it done?
Well, trust and the Islanders, that's asking me a little much here. All right, it's asking a little much.
Mhm.
I bet against the Islanders on, I think it was Tuesday night, might have been Monday night, when they played the Columbus Blue Jackets. I just couldn't believe that the Islanders, Joe, would be a minus 184 favorite against anybody. All right, and Columbus have been playing so well, so I bet on Columbus, took the dog there, and I bought it. The Islanders won that game 3-1. Now, almost the same situation here. Philadelphia played last night and got crushed by the resurgent New York Rangers, who looked like the Rangers that we thought they would be coming into the season here. Islanders did not play last night, so they're a well-rested team. That being said, Joe, Noah Dobson, their top defenseman, and it may not even be close, and he's really their only defenseman who can skate the puck out of the zone. He's out week to week here with an injury here. They're saying it's not going to need surgery, but he's going to be gone a while. You want to know how desperate the Islanders are? They signed Tony DeAngelo earlier today. He can't play today. He has to go on waivers. He can play maybe tomorrow night for the team here. But Tony DeAngelo is a player who's been really been said goodbye to by two teams. He's a divisive force in the locker room. He's not the greatest teammate on the planet here. But the Islanders are desperate for some offense on defense. So, hey, they signed DeAngelo. I don't love it, but I'm probably going with the Islanders here as well. Once again, the well-rested team. Philadelphia housed last night, tired team. I wouldn't blame anybody for going with the Flyers. The Flyers did beat the Islanders last week, so maybe they pick up on it again here, but I'll take the Isles.
You're liking the Islanders here tonight. How about, listen, Chicago has been pretty interesting at home in a big dog situation against good teams. I mean, they've beaten Florida. They've beaten Vegas. They all of a sudden show up when you least expect them at a pretty big number. Is tonight one of those nights?
Yeah, you put it perfectly, right? They do annoy you, and all of a sudden, oh, hey, it's the Blackhawks. They can play. This is not a team that's bereft of talent, right? I mean, Bedard is really an all-world talent. He hasn't quite been there yet, and it's probably not fair to criticize him because there's not a lot around him. All right, so I really don't want to, get on the guy. Tampa Bay, we know they're the better team. We know that, right? But they go with the backup goaltender. It's not Vasilevsky in net. It's Johansson in net here. I kind of like the dog, all right, at plus 176. I don't love it. This is not one where I expect to win, but it's one of those where, if you bet this 3 times, you only need to win to hit it once to make money. Well, this is going to be one of those shots here. I think Tampa Bay probably wins. And to tell you the truth, if I liked another game, sort of a parlay, I wouldn't mind taking Tampa Bay and somebody else to win. But if you're just going to bet this game straight up, I'm going to take the Chicago Blackhawks. I'll take the plus 176. It's because of the backup goaltender. The backup goaltender is scaring me a little bit here. We'll take a shot with Chicago.
Yeah, and I just don't. I'll take the 1.5 too. I'm good. I think they'll be just annoying enough there with an opportunity maybe to pull off the upset. And then of course you got to love this with an opportunity to get back here. A little quick payback chance for Winnipeg after, 3 goals in the third period Ellie Buck gave up. They lost 5-2 to Utah. Now they get them at home. They've been much better, obviously, at home than on the road. What do we get here tonight? A little payback for Winnipeg?
And once again, Joe, another situation. Utah played last night. A great game. They shut him out. Vejmelka got the shutout. That's off. Minnesota. They shut out Minnesota here, and now they get Winnipeg. So it's a great situation for Winnipeg. Hellebuck is in net. First thing I checked there, so he's going to start here. Probably no Nikolai Ehlers tonight for those who are wondering. So you're not going to want to take him. He's dealing with a little bit of an illness, but it's not Scheifele. He's fine. Connor's fine. I'm fine. It's the Jets. And by the way, if you wanted to go with that parlay, the Lightning Jets parlay wouldn't be that bad a choice either here. But I'm on the listen, you're not going to play minus 215 here. So you're going to play the goal line. You want to take the Jets, or you're going to do the parlay here. But the Jets should win this game tonight.
Yeah, you would think the Jets would be in a prime opportunity here to get it done for sure. All right, George, we got some football this weekend as well, as you know. We were just talking to Brady last hour. Could we be witnessing the greatest rookie quarterback season in the history of the game if he pulls this off in Philly?
It's funny. Bill Barnwell of ESPN did exactly what you're talking about. Put up together trying to figure out who was the best rookie season ever. Not just a quarterback, but ever. And according to him, if you believe his stats, for Daniels to win ever, he would have to go to a Super Bowl. Not necessarily win the Super Bowl, but go to a Super Bowl. So he has to win this game. What Daniels has done has been spectacular, Joe. I mean, think about it. Does anybody really think Washington's the fourth best team in football? No. It's Jaden Daniels. Okay, Terry McLaurin. Anyone else?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all Daniels here. And if I'm Washington, man, I am selling out to stop Saquon Barkley. Right? Sort of like they did the last time they played. We had the Jalen Hurts got hurt. Sell out to stop Barkley. Force Hurts to beat you with his arm or his legs. And he's injured. We know he's injured. All right, I wonder if he's got a tear there, but he wouldn't be playing this in the regular season. I'm not saying the Commanders are going to win this game, but I think they're going to give one hell of a fight here. I'm taking the Commanders in the points, and I would not be shocked at all if they beat Philadelphia.
I couldn't, but you see the prop on Saquon, George? It's 132 yards, 132 and a half. Like what? In a playoff game? Like, what are we? They're telling you what Philadelphia is going to want to do here, right? So the question is, are they able to stop them in any way, shape, or form? 132 and a half in a playoff game here, Kurtz.
They stopped him. I said when Jalen Hurts got the concussion in that last game, they stopped Saquon cold. Now, granted, they were selling out, right? Because they didn't care about Kenny Pickett throwing the football. Pickett was actually okay. They would have won that game if Devonta Smith didn't drop that ball in the fourth quarter. But I think they do the same thing here. I think they're going to sell out to stop Saquon Barkley and force Hurts to beat him, which he can do, by the way. If healthy, it's A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. He could do. But I think that's the formula for the Washington Commanders. Stop Barkley. I'll take you.
It's a big number. George, appreciate it as always. Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and of course, coming up top of the hour, in-game live as we've got 13 games slated in college basketball, 3 in the NBA. We just talked about the 4 games on the ice, and then, of course, we got quite a weekend coming up, and on Sunday with the AFC and NFC championship games. And the guy taking over at the top of the hour, Scotty Wetzel, Mr. Opposite Pick, stepping in here. Scotty, let's start the NBA here tonight. Just 3 games. I'm not sure why I continue to hear people tell me that this is a rough spot for Cleveland. What's rough about it? It's the Sixers, and they're atrocious. They'll probably win this game by 20. What am I missing here tonight?
I know. Boy, how bad has Philadelphia gotten, right? I mean, yeah, you're laying 10.5 on the road. I get that. Who wants to do that? But Cleveland 16-6 against the spread, last 22 on the road. And that's long enough to, not be a surprise. We realize Cleveland has been good now for the last month and a half or so, right? So they've been able to withstand that and still cover games on the road. And really, if that's not enough, then it's an anti-Philadelphia play, Joe. 2-10 straight up. 1-11 against the spread their last 12. They failed to cover 9 straight. And, oh, by the way, we buried the lead. They're 4-17 against the spread, last 21 at home. I mean, they're just, no Embiid, no Jordan. They're not any good. They're just not. Playoffs were to start today, they wouldn't be in them. So I don't know how they're expected to all of a sudden turn around and be really good against, the best team record-wise in the Eastern Conference. So I know who wants to lay 10.5, but you can't take Philadelphia because they're going to end up losing, 120-95 when everything is said and done.
Yeah, I mean, Maxi's in, Paul George is in, Oubre is in, but I don't care. You know what? Might not be a bad win.
That's not too bad. Then.
Yeah, so
no beat.
No,
okay.
But I think, you know what? Let it play out. You can probably get Cleveland at a better number here shortly. If Philadelphia can maybe go on a little bit of a run, you can get a better number than 10.5. What about Memphis here tonight at home taking on New Orleans? Felt like we were going to get a lot of points. I mean, I think it was the biggest total at 244.5. Well, that would lead me to believe that Memphis probably wins and covers this game. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I like this one less than the other one because New Orleans is showing a little bit of life here. They're getting a little more healthier. It's kind of Heckle and Jekyll on who's playing, who's not playing. Always got to check and see because they are 5-1 straight up against the spread their last 6. But Memphis, Joe, is almost an automatic play. They're great. 5-1 against the spread last 6, 17-5 straight up at home. You can't beat them in Memphis. About a 26-10 against the spread run, including 14-5 at home. There's a reason why you're laying 10.5. You're paying a little price. Maybe same thing here. It's always wise, whatever side you like. You put maybe if it's going to do a full unit on the game, maybe go half a unit, maybe even 3/4. Just save a little back. Hopefully New Orleans gets off to a good start, and that 10.5 maybe drops down to 7.5 or 8.5. So it's not quite as tough. Same thing with Cleveland, but ultimately you got to play Memphis. You can't play against Memphis, especially at home.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one as well. Only 4 games on the ice here tonight, Scotty. The game of the night, though, Vegas taking on Dallas. I believe, second game here in a row for Vegas. Interesting price on this one. What were you thinking?
Yeah, this is be careful with this one. I must say, I love the under. I really, under 5.5. A lot of under trends here. How about 20-8? Last 28 meetings between the two have gone under, including 12-3 at Dallas. How about 6-1 under their last 7 meetings overall, no matter where they play? How about Dallas is on a 7-1 under run? So what's the concern, Scott? Well, everyone has 5.5 except this website that I look at from time to time, Joe. And every once in a while, they're off the beaten radar. And they have 6 for this game. Not 5.5 like I see everywhere else. So it's just, and that website tends to be right way more times than everyone else. So maybe not a full unit on this one just because of the respect I'm going to give that site. I won't mention the name. It's one of the offshore books. We all look at offshore books just to kind of get a comparison of the numbers. And this one's pretty wise. They're pretty shrewd. So, but I still like the under 5.5 for all those numbers I gave you there.
By the way, just prepare yourself. I'm not letting you get out of here without giving us an Australian Open winner. So just prep yourself for that, Scotty. Yes, let's talk about Tampa here tonight as well.
You and I talked about the Chicago team winning games they have no business winning, but they do it consistently enough where I got to go, all right, is this a letdown for Tampa? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm going to grab Tampa in regulation, drop it down to minus 170 or so. They're 20-3. Now, everybody beats Chicago. I get that. But 20-3 against Chicago, including 10-1 in Chicago. They're struggling on the road, Tampa Bay. Only 1-7, Joe, their last 8. So normally you stay away. But I think this is one of those get-right games where they kind of rally the troops Friday night. Should be a good crowd, I'm sure, in Chicago. But I think ultimately, like, Tampa Bay will take this game seriously because of their struggles on the road. So give me Tampa Bay, take a little bite off that monster minus 2 and change number, and have them win in regulation, which I think they'll do.
All right, good stuff there. How about them Islanders? You buying them here tonight? They've been playing better.
Yeah, they have. And, they own Philadelphia for whatever reason. Two teams, equal talent, really over the last couple of seasons, which these numbers will indicate. 13-4, though, Islanders over Philadelphia, including 8-2 at home, which I wouldn't really think that would be the case. Both playing decent hockey, both 5-2. Philadelphia's 5-2 as well. Last 7. They lost last night, though, to the Rangers. Didn't have to travel. They're right here in New York. I get that. But they were playing last night, and the Islanders weren't. So with those series numbers, a little play on the Islanders tonight. Why not?
Winnipeg trying to exact a little revenge. Lost to Utah on Monday at home here tonight. What are you thinking?
Definitely revenge spot, right? Jets own the I was going to say the Utah Utes or Jazz, or I guess they can't be called the Yetis now. They tried to get that. 11-1 Winnipeg versus Utah, including 5-0 at home. They're 17-2, in fact, at home against Utah/Arizona. Utah played last night in Minnesota. Tough game. Winnipeg was resting. Give me the Jets in regulation minus 150. Pretty good price.
All right. That is good stuff in the NHL. We'll talk about some college hoops with Scotty when Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? I mean, what do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on this Friday now as we get ready. Still got some action on the college hardwood here tonight. Just 13 games across the board, but some interesting ones. A big focus tonight on the Big Ten, and you don't have to look any further than Iowa tonight to get a good one. Penn State visiting Iowa, who absolutely threw up all over themselves at home last game. They couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. So we welcome back in Scotty Wetzel. Scotty, what are the chances of Iowa going 3 of 21 again from three-point range at home in their building against Penn State tonight?
Yeah, I know, right? I can't believe this line is only 3.5. I saw that. I was like, why are we missing it? Right? Are we missing a digit here? It should be 13.5. I mean, what a great bounce back spot. You know, getting embarrassed last time at home. They're great at home. Get a little of this. In this series against Penn State, 19 games. Right now, Iowa's been generally good and Penn State's been generally mediocre. We get that. And you got to take that into account with some of these trends. But still, 17-2 straight up their last 19. You're basically just being asked to win the game, laying only 3.5. 5-1 against the spread is Iowa last 6. I would normally go over. I love betting over in Iowa games, but I'm going to stay away from that. It's a big number you see there, 167.5, just because Penn State 8-1 under their last 9 road games. So they're going to want to slow it down. And when teams make a point of trying to slow it down, they can slow it down, even if it means them just not scoring. So I won't touch the over-under, but you got to play Iowa tonight, laying only 3.5.
I agree with you. I think it's buy low time on Iowa at home. They very rarely are going to lose 2 in a row. Same thing, I believe, with a couple of these other games coming up here tonight. Villanova and Marquette just underway. You were looking at the total in this game. What do you think we're going to get here tonight?
Yeah, I think we're going to go under. 142.5 was the opening line. I'm sure it's pretty close to that right now since they just tipped off. Villanova 8-3 under on the road this season, and that's really predicated on them just not playing nearly as good on the road as they do at home. Marquette has owned this series 5-0 straight up and against the spread at home. And overall as well. In addition to that, 5-1 actually at home and against the spread. So I think Marquette will kind of control things. And if that's the case, then I think the game will go under because Villanova will probably put 55, maybe 60 on the board. That still gives you a cushion of Marquette putting 80 on the board, which I don't know if they'll necessarily do that. So let's go under 142.5.
Yeah, it depends on if it's raining threes for Nova. Otherwise, they're going to get absolutely destroyed in this game anyway. The late night degenerate special, UCLA and Washington, a Big Ten late night degenerate special. It feels so weird saying that, Scott. UCLA and Washington in the Big Ten. 137.5 is the total. And believe it or not, Mick Cronin, UCLA, they're playing in overs here, Scotty. Is it another one tonight?
That they are, Joe. You know, and I love playing the UCLA unders, but you know what? You can only hit me in the face a couple times before I say, okay, enough. 7-1 over UCLA on the road. They're just not the same team defensively. We've had Cronin that you go in press conferences and complain about his team's defense and this and that. So 7-1 over on the road, and then you got Washington 6-2 over at home. So little hunch play on the over. It's not a big number, so let's go with those numbers and keep in mind. Let's a little sneak play on the over UCLA for one of the few times this season. They're 10-1 against Washington. And for those that want to put them in a parlay, last 11 they've owned this series.
Love that. Also here tonight, interesting one regarding St. Joe's in a interesting spot, getting ready to take on Dayton, who just a couple of, I think last week, ended up getting embarrassed at home by George Mason, I believe. But now they're back home again, taking on a maybe a little underrated St. Joe's team.
Yeah, 12-7. St. Joe's not bad. Dayton 13-6. This is not a great Dayton team. It's good, but it's not like great like we've seen. They've already lost one time. They've come close to losing a couple of others at home. Still overall 22-3. But here's the kicker: St. Joe's, right? 15-5, Joe, against the spread last 20 against Dayton. And Dayton's basically been Dayton, and St. Joe's has basically been St. Joe's. So as long as there's not anything different, and there's not, that tells me that St. Joe's wants to hang with Dayton. I'll give you one real quickly.
Yeah.
Michigan, 12-1-1 against the spread, last 14 against Purdue, getting 4 or 5 tonight.
Yeah, I like that. Coming off a loss, too. Also, give me that Australian Open winner tonight. Who is it?
Absolutely. Well, this is really tomorrow, but I love the over 38.5 Sinner Zverev. Goes to 4 sets. There's no way this doesn't hit 40 games.
Scotty Wetzel in-game live. We'll see you top of the hour as Game Time Decisions continues.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here as we close out the week on this Friday together, getting ready for what should be a huge weekend here. Plenty of action going on. Great college basketball slate tomorrow. We still have a couple of big games coming up here tonight, including Michigan taking on Purdue. And then, of course, we've been talking Penn State taking on Iowa. And then you got a little late night Big Ten basketball, still crazy to say it, as UCLA taking on Washington, 11 o'clock Eastern time tip on that one. Another interesting one, the Atlantic 10, too. Keep an eye on St. Bonaventure taking on VCU, and VCU laying about 12 and a half right now in that one. They have been very, very good, very tough, just coming off a really nice win on the road. St. Bonaventure has struggled, to say the least, but that is a big number, 12 and a half here, with a low total of 134 and a half. So that is the big games coming up here tonight in college basketball. We have, obviously, the NFL coming on Sunday as 4 teams remain, but we did have a whole lot of interesting coaching changes, hirings, firings even. And the latest was today. You want to talk about going from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain. We just learned a little while ago that the Houston Texans fired Bobby Slowick. Now, he was the guy that everyone said was responsible for the great success for C.J. Stroud
last year, if you will recall, right? He was the guy who was single-handedly, oh my goodness, he's going to be one of the hottest new coordinators, one of these young coordinators, young guns that's going to be everyone is going to want as a head coach. What an unbelievable job he did last year. And all of that was great. And then this year happened because he basically, CJ Stroud, went from leading the league or being top 5 in a whole lot of offensive categories for quarterbacks last year as a rookie to this year in which, well, basically he regressed in every statistical category, not to mention they were one of the worst, if not the worst, second half team against the number this season. And what that means and what it told me and what I've been saying here on the network all season long, listen, we cashed a lot of tickets fading Houston in the second half of games, especially ones that they were leading because they were great early. The problem was defenses and defensive coordinators adjusted, and Bobby Slowick and that offense didn't. And there is no greater indicator than just how terrible they were in the second half of games. The offensive line wasn't good, but there was a disconnect somewhere here because you don't go from being, the guy that they are saying this is going to be unbelievable, he's going to be a head coach in no time, to all of a sudden, we're moving on from our prodigy here, who came from San Francisco, by the way. So he is a Shanahan prodigy of sorts, but it just did not work out this year. And apparently they're thinking maybe a new coordinator for CJ Stroud is in the future. And, well, it is now because they ended up firing him a little bit earlier this afternoon. In the meantime, one of the strangest stories that you will hear as the Jacksonville Jaguars continue to be an absolute dumpster fire of an organization. If it wasn't firing Doug Peterson, it was firing Doug Peterson, but keeping Trent Baalke, and then telling us how it would be, quote, and this is, of course, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, releasing a statement telling people how we don't want to throw the bathwater out with the baby. It could be suicide. We don't want to fire everyone. And then he simply watched every top head coaching candidate not show up for the interview or decide not to take the interview. And then all of a sudden we get the announcement that Trent Baalke is fired. Oh, and Liam Cohen is now hired as the head coach. The only problem with that, and this is, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, he had just 24 hours earlier turned down the idea of being the Jaguars head coach. In fact, talked about, I'm not going anywhere because the Tampa Bay Bucs were going to make him the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. They were going to give him $4 or $5 million. He was going to be the highest offensive coordinator, the highest paid OC in the NFL. Sounded great until all of a sudden, nobody in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization could apparently reach him and asked, where is the contract? Did you sign the contract? Did you get it back? No. They couldn't get him. And then all of a sudden we learned that, oh, look at this. Trent Baalke fired. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Liam Cohen, now the new head coach for Jacksonville. Just absolutely over-the-top drama. I'm talking about soap opera. Because what makes this even worse is that Robert Saleh was planning on going back to Jacksonville for what was going to be another interview. And in all likelihood, according to the people of Robert Saleh, the job was his. He was planning on getting the job as the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. And instead, the Buccaneers sent a contract to Liam Cohen to make him the highest paid offensive coordinator. He doesn't sign it. They can't reach him. He sneaks over to Jacksonville to meet with Shad Khan, the owner, and somehow or another agrees to be their next head coach once they fired Trent Baalke. The timeline is just over the top. It is total dysfunction. And Jacksonville, yikes. Listen, great Nice hire. Good offensive coordinator. Done wonders with Baker Mayfield. I don't think this should be a problem. He's obviously going to have a say on who the general manager is going to be, the new general manager. But my goodness, you want to talk about just sullying everybody along the way. Unreal what has happened here with Jacksonville. And can Liam Cohn resurrect a guy and a quarterback that you just gave $240 million to, who basically went in reverse? Do they really have a franchise quarterback in Jacksonville? Careful what you wish for here, Liam Cohn. Dave Canales was the previous OC in Tampa. We saw what he was able to do at the end of the year now as the Carolina head coach with Bryce Young. Boy, they are going to hope that Trevor Lawrence makes a miraculous turnaround, is healthy, and may have the right guy pulling the strings now in Liam Cohn. Now, the Raiders were hoping to also get to Liam Cohn, along with a few other guys. But the problem is they have decided they're going to go the weekend at Bernie's route. That's right. They are wheeling in the legendary head coach of the former head coach of the Seattle Mariners. There you go. Seattle Mariners might as well be. Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll is now your Raiders head coach. Wait, what? Yes, Pete Carroll, 73 years old now, likely to be, I believe, 74 by the time the season starts, will again be the oldest head coach in the league. And the good news, though, for Pete Carroll is that they have more cap space than most teams. He is going to have an opportunity to be able to kind of mold this team into what Pete Carroll believes will be a winning franchise. So, Pete Carroll, okay. I'd much rather Rex Ryan. I think that would have been more fun. But okay, Pete Carroll's good. But the Raiders still don't have a quarterback. So I don't know what Pete Carroll's going to do in the AFC West. Head scratching. The NFL never sleeps. Neither do we. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. Coming up, top of the hour here, we'll pass the baton off to Scotty Wetzel and Dave Sharapan as they'll have in-game live going for you with just 3 games in the NBA, 13 in college basketball. You do have, of course, 4 games on the ice with the puck dropping here shortly. So you got a little something for everybody here tonight. We're all waiting for Sunday when the NFL will take center stage, as it, I think, should be a very interesting weekend with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills getting ready to do battle in the late game Sunday. You'll have Philadelphia at home at the Link, taking on the Washington Commanders with a rookie quarterback who nobody saw getting to this point. I think both of these games should be extremely interesting. And then, of course, you got to ask yourself, all right, is there a game here where we could get the upset? And if there is an upset, do we really consider Buffalo beating the Kansas City Chiefs an upset? Yes, Kansas City's at home. But Buffalo, sans 13 seconds just a few years ago, had already beaten Kansas City, or should have beaten Kansas City here. So they already beat them in the regular season. We saw that one earlier this year, right? 31-21, they handled business there. I don't know that that's an upset, Buffalo beating Kansas City. Washington beating Philadelphia is just flat out unthinkable. Just given the fact that we've never seen a rookie quarterback, and we've seen a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. We saw Troy Aikman in Dallas. We saw Peyton Manning at Indy. The list goes on. These were guys that were put in, well, the bad rosters were put in there, and that's usually how it works as a rookie quarterback. You usually don't find yourself walking into a starting quarterback spot as a rookie and all of a sudden finding yourself in the NFC Championship game. But that's exactly where Jaden Daniels finds himself, as do Commander fans. And Philadelphia, you tell me who's got all the pressure in this game. They're the ones that are nearly a touchdown favorite. They are expected to win. They're at home. And it's not like Nick Sirianni is some sort of playoff god with this team. I don't know that I give him the edge in coaching. And listen, Dan Quinn will forever be, 24-3, 25? What was that halftime score when he was the DC in Atlanta with Matt Ryan and company there, where they completely didn't show up in the second half? So I'm not exactly sold on Dan Quinn being the guy to push all the right buttons in a big game. Let's be honest here. However, I'm willing to be proven wrong. I just don't know that I can get to the window with the idea that the Commanders are a team that are going to win this game, because I do think that when you look at some of these props in this game coming up, and we've been laughing at the idea all show long behind the scenes that Saquon Barkley's rushing prop is 132.5 yards in a championship game. And usually by this point, the better defenses, the better teams are usually meeting at this point. And yet you have a running back that is expected to go 132.5 yards, which I think says a lot about what the market thinks of this Washington defense. But don't take my word for it. Let's ask Dave Sharapan if the market is out of their mind with 132.5 rushing prop in a championship game. Dave, it's not like they're playing the Raiders. This is a championship game. I've never seen a number this high. It's crazy.
In my life. Hi, Joe. Good to see you. You're in the warmest part of the country. Everybody's freezing.
Yes.
Even northern Florida's cold. And I don't know. Weather's not even going to be a factor in this.
Yeah.
I was asked, what's the highest rushing total that I ever put up or made? I can't remember a number this high. 100 was the line of what, like, you put it up, is he going to get 100? So you put up 99.5, 100.5, something like that. Now, what Saquon has done in these two games against Washington would dictate that, all right, let's sit in a room, me and you, get Kofsky in there, crunch some numbers, and go, okay, he went for 150 something and 130 something the last time. Put it a little bit less than that. And you go, maybe you could sell me on 119 and a half. Like, that would be it. This is extra. I mean, this is extra. And I think what the books did with that number was try to find the top. Like, find the number that somebody is going to give you a limit play on the under, because who in the hell else is going to? I mean, really?
Yes.
You look at it, you go, okay, it's time. Like, if Washington wins, he don't go over this number. If Washington is in the game, he most likely doesn't go over this number. Only way he goes over this number is if Philly blows him out, meaning by 10 or more. So when the line's 6, could he get 150 again? Of course. The thing, Joe, I think that's an interesting bet is the longest rush over, because he's good for a big hit, right? Like, those are the ones you see. Saquon's rushing yards, big number total, but one run is capable of going over 21 and a half or 23 and a half if you can find that number. So I think that's the bet if you really want to bet something Saquon. I don't know. That seems too high to me. I can't believe it's that high, but he's going to get the ball, right? He's going to get the ball. Oh, there's good job right here. Prop spotlight. Look at this. Would you look at anything
Brian
on
Robinson
the left
Jr.?
in any of this?
I was going to say, is he even still on the team? I mean, Jaden Daniels has been the leading rusher for weeks. Now for them. What happened to him? He fell off a cliff. So it's Jaden Daniels or bust, or as far as I'm concerned, it's Barkley or bust for Philadelphia. I think you're spot on with that, Dave. You like Philly, you like this over and everything that comes with it. But if you like Washington, well, that's an under, and Jaden Daniels is over on anything. We'll have more on those games as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Saturday, January 25th is a huge day at Gulfstream Park. It is Pegasus Cup Day. We're going to have a preview show. First Bet presents the DRF handicapping show for Pegasus World Cup. Alexa, tell us more.
Yep, Friday, January 24th. Make sure to tune in on SportsGrid TV from 2 to 3 p.m. to see the show. If you miss it then, don't worry. It airs again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about all the major contenders in the Pegasus Cup.
Special guests Bailey Armour, Samantha Perry, and Randy Moss will join us. Don't miss it.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions as we look to close out this edition with you. Coming up, of course, in-game live here on the SportsGrid Network. Dave Sherapan will be there along with Scotty Wetzel as they've got some hardwood action here tonight. Couple games in the NHL as well. Dave, any one of those games tonight? Could it be Dallas and Vegas might interest you at all?
Yeah, I got that game on. It's already 1-1. Kind of expected another under like last night.
Yeah.
On the number 6, but we got 2 goals quick, and they're already only 8 minutes into the first period. So game's already trending to the over. The in-game's up to 7.5. Probably under that number. I think under 7.5. That might be the gift of the show right now. I'll get Wetzel on that. As far as NBA, I got the Sixer stuff.
Who's
on.
in goal for?
Yeah,
who's in goal
Hill,
for Vegas?
Hill and Orange. Yeah. Well,
7.5. All right. Yeah, I'm good. Sold me.
Well, those quick goals are a real betting opportunity if you like unders.
Yep.
Because it jumps up the number way too quick. So fluky goal. I don't think either one was a power play goal. But watching that one, Flyers and Islanders under. Islanders will probably get a lead and blow it. That seems to be their MO. Utah Winnipeg will be a really good hockey game. Better than the line would indicate. Utah's playing pretty good, but they get them on a back-to-back. I got the Sixer stuff on. Very rare you get a team plus almost 10 at home, which it closed pregame 9. And the Sixers are actually winning 49-46. The in-game number's down to Cleveland minus 5.5. So there might be a good betting middle opportunity sitting there. Memphis is going to destroy the Pelicans later. Although numbers come down, maybe that was maybe Ja isn't playing.
No Ja.
Haven't got any.
No Ja Morant.
There we go. That's okay.
Yep.
College game, Penn State's playing Iowa. That game's going over. And then in a Big Ten matchup out west late, UCLA's playing Washington. Still can't get used to that, Joe. Still can't get used to that.
No, me neither. Big Ten after dark just does not have the same ring, Dave. You know what I'm saying? It just no, it feels a little shady to me there.
Where are you at on this whole thing? It's 2 games on Sunday. What's the Super Bowl matchup? Because you're kind of a auxiliary Bills Mafia member.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know how important it is in your house. I hope Buffalo wins. I really, really do. Buffalo and Philly is my Super Bowl.
Too.
That's my Super Bowl. I think that's the one I want to see. You?
I went chalky, chalk, and just I got Buffalo at 7.5, and I got Philadelphia winning it in a 6-point teaser. I don't see there's any reason to mess with anything beyond that.
I think that
I'll
wins.
just take. What
wins?
It's a 1-score game in Philly with Buffalo and Kansas. I don't care when it's not going to be a double-digit win. It's going to be under a touchdown. Whoever wins the game, and I do think Philadelphia at home handles business there. But I know you and Scotty will have all the action coming up here tonight, Dave. So get out of here because you got hockey to watch, and you better make sure that your Sixers don't blow this lead that they got here over the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. So there you got it, Dave Sherapan. Again, in-game live coming up here. We have got you covered, as we always do here on the SportsGrid Network. We are getting ready for those games here tonight. Still 4 pretty big games in college basketball coming your way, heading into what should be a monster day tomorrow in college hoops. Keep an eye on the SEC matchups, more of the Big Ten matchups. We're going to get a chance to see Michigan State and Rutgers tomorrow, which I think is going to be very, very interesting here. So we've got a lot still to be determined as college basketball kicks in this time of year, the NBA in full effect here, and there is no place else to be than right here on the SportsGrid Network. Who will be the representatives in the AFC and the NFC in the Super Bowl? Well, we're going to get to Sunday. A lot still to talk about all weekend long. Prop bets, sides, first halves, totals, Lot going on here in the world of sports right now. Don't forget, pitchers and catchers will be reporting in just a few weeks here as the MLB will be back front and center before we know it. Enjoy the games. Get ready for in-game live. Game Time Decisions will be back tomorrow here on the grid. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you again soon.